Live from the 607, it is the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Why don't you join in the conversation with the hashtag ODPH? Here we go. And welcome to another edition of that ODPH. I am your host, Ken M. Sitting across from you this week is the sound guy galore, JR.
Oh, you know I'm right here.
Absolutely. To the right of me, checking the stats you need to know about, it's the intern himself, Padawan J.
No April Fool's jokes here.
No, April Fool's has came and gone, but we have the real news to talk about here, folks. Hashtag ODPH if you're on that social media. The biggest news story of the week, sadly,
Came on April Fool's Day.
it came on April Fool's Day.
Everyone thought it was a joke.
Yeah, which if it was, it would have been a pretty funny one. But unfortunately, reality is not a joke. Tony Ferguson is out of the main event of UFC 223 in Brooklyn this weekend.
Cursed.
You know, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. And how many times has this fight been canceled because somebody has gotten hurt?
Wait, insert LeBron quote. Not one, not two, not three.
Yeah, too many times.
4 times.
Too many.
4 times. And this is just devastating on a multitude of levels. And I'll break it down like this. First and foremost, you almost had another title defense just completely washed. The belt held up again. Who knows what's going on? Secondly, as hardcore fans have been waiting for this fight to happen because Ferguson's been on a hell of a win streak. He looks amazing. And then you have the man, the myth, the legend, Khabib, who anytime you can watch him fight is amazing. Finally, everything lined up. It was going down, and then this happens. Ferguson hurts his knee. I'm reading conflicting reports of how extensive the damage is. I'm hoping it's a speedy recovery. But nevertheless, the fight was in jeopardy until something very random happened because I did not even know this man was going to be in the conversation for stepping up to 155, but he wants to be the second two-division champion. Max Holloway, baby.
Oh, boy.
Stepping up from 145 to 155 on 6 days' notice. Fathom that, if you will. 6 days' notice to fight Khabib, who, I mean, would you even fight Khabib on 3 months' notice?
I wouldn't fight Khabib on 30 years' notice.
I'm just saying, just shows you how much of a fighter Max is. Max has no fear. Max is game for the fight. He is going to show up, and it's going to be spectacular. I'm actually more excited to see this because I didn't think it was possible because Max has been doing his thing at 145. He's looked outstanding down there. Plus, he had the fight coming in with Ortega sometime this summer. I don't know what the status is now of that, except I would assume that whenever Max is healthy enough, he will fight Ortega for the belt at 145. But now I got to pose this to the panel. What are your thoughts on the new main event?
I almost wonder with the Max Holloway stepping up if that wasn't already the plan, that after this fight was said and done and they have the post-fight presser with the fighters and Dana's in the room, I almost wonder if this wasn't going to be announced that, whoever would have won the fight, Khabib, Ferguson, Dana would have announced, and their next fight is going to be at a date to be determined against Max Holloway. Because it's very unheard of for me at least for a fighter to go up a weight class and be ready in 6 days unless you aren't already planning something like that or that you're not getting ready for down the road.
Maybe not.
Because I don't think I knew, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that Holloway was going to step up a weight division.
No, I had no idea about this because last we knew Holloway was still nursing an injury that took him out of the Frankie Edgar fight.
Right.
So the fact he's stepping up, and let alone on 6 days' notice, is, hey, props to him. I have nothing but respect for this move.
That's some Cerrone type stuff.
It is, because you have few fighters, because every fighter says, I'll fight at any time, any place. Few of them actually step up and do it. Some say, I need a camp. I can't be ready to go. Max has a lot on the line here. Now, his belt at 145 is fine. That has nothing to do with this. If he wins, he's another two-division champion that the UFC has had in their history. But at the same token, he could get really hurt in this fight against Khabib.
Yeah.
This is not going to be a walk in the park. Now, the only thing we know for certain is whoever wins this fight is the undisputed lightweight champion of the UFC.
Yeah, Dana has made that perfectly clear.
Yeah, so there is no question whoever is walking out of here with the belt is the new champ at 155. A lot of things can fall out from this. If Max wins, okay, do you stay at 155 or do you relinquish that belt and stay at 145? I don't know. It's a good question.
Say, if I'm Max Holloway and I win, do I really want to face the prospect of having to fight Khabib a second time, even more mad than he is right now?
I say yes. I don't think Max is one of those few fighters I don't think cares. I think he is in the same level of Cerrone that he is there to fight, and he wants the competition, and he does not care.
Right.
I think he'd fight Khabib however many times you put him in front of him, which, I mean, is just what kind of fighter is. And I think he just wants the legacy in this. On the flip side of the coin, if Khabib wins, I mean, now 155 is solidified. You have your definitive champion. Max would probably go back to 145. Who's next? Obviously, there is a big money fight to be made with Conor McGregor if they can get that worked out.
Yeah, that's if they can get him to sit down long enough.
Yeah. Can that happen? Who knows? I mean, that kind of opens the door for a lot more movement at 155. There is some great fighters in that division that we haven't even discussed fighting him. JR, you have any thoughts on this?
Honestly, when I heard when I heard Ferguson went down, I texted you late last night, of course, and I'm like, this has got to be a joke, right? I'm getting punked. It's not real. Then, when we realized that it wasn't, honestly, the only thing I'm thinking is it's McGregor time. Doesn't matter. Khabib and McGregor has to be the next fight. It has to be. Almost regardless. I mean, if Holloway wins, that'd be great. Two belt champion, and then maybe that would kind of, in a sense, piss McGregor off enough to be like, oh, well, now I'm going to go get 3 belts, or I don't know. At least maybe he'll come back. Either way, we just want to see him back.
I think he comes back regardless. I think the itch is now at a point where he's really making an emphasis to get on social media and make some comments about the fights. Yeah. More so than he was doing when he was getting trained for Mayweather. So that being the question, I mean, obviously, if he does come back, yeah, you put him at against the champion 155. I don't think there's any question about that.
No.
He's the former champion. He was never defeated for his belt. It only makes sense because, I mean, unless who else do you put up there? I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, 155 is the deepest division in all the UFC. So you can take your pick of any fighters in that class. Either way, it's going to be a heck of a competition for whoever wins this belt. I would say it's probably the most coveted belt in the UFC right now.
It is the big shiny object in the room right now out of all the belts.
Yeah, with respect to all the other champions in the UFC, but 155 is the deepest. So to say that you are the best at that weight class is truly saying something right now.
I mean, like I said, though, at 155, either way, no matter who walks out of this fight, you almost can guarantee that your next fight's probably going to be McGregor.
You would think.
It almost has to be. You know what I mean? Like, you just assume he's going to come back. He's going to be at the fight this weekend.
No,
no doubt in my mind. And he'll be ready right there. And if it's going to be, hey, we might even see UFC 233.2 because they might just fight right there.
Yeah, because I think he's definitely going to make a statement fight, and I think he's going to call him out. I think if Khabib wins, he's going to call out McGregor.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. And if Holloway wins, I wouldn't doubt he calls him out too. Or he says, I'm going to fight at both divisions until he is forced to give up one.
Well, especially with McGregor there, Holloway may make a smart comment like, hey, at least now that I have both belts, I'll defend both.
Oh, yeah.
You know he's going to throw some plug in there and be like, hey.
That or something like, I'm the greatest 2-belt champion of all time.
Right. And he'll find some way to throw some jab in there like, I'm the best 2-belt champion because, wait, I defend them. And then point right at him and say something super spicy.
But, that's going to be the thing about it because that's what sells. I mean, it's one thing to be a dominant champion just based on your physical skills alone. It's another if you can put people in the seats, get the pay-per-view buys. If you can do that, you're one step ahead of the game. And this is what leads to those quote-unquote big money fights. And either way, I mean, Holloway's in a no-lose situation as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah.
He wins, he's a 2-division champion. If he loses, he still has his belt. He gains more fans for jumping in short notice, and especially with the hardcore fans who are going to be like, this is a great fight on paper. I mean, this is one that we're going to talk about later in the show as we break down the card for UFC 223. But this is one that is definitely appealing on many levels. The only question I have is how healed up is he from his injury? Because if he was so injured he couldn't fight Frankie Edgar, is it fully recovered to jump in and save this card? That's another factor that I don't think a lot of people have been focused on. I think people are just happy that we're still going to have a main event on a stacked card as is.
Honestly, when I saw Ferguson go down, my first thought was Cerrone was somewhere ready to go.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure he was.
I thought, no doubt in my mind, he's like, oh yeah, 6 days, I can cut weight, sure, not a problem. I'll be ready. See you there.
Well, that's the thing. When you have fighters that are that stand up and that ready to go at a drop of a dime, you know that there will be a substitute worthy of going in there. The only question I would have is there enough credit that Cerrone could jump in to 155 for the belt as is right now? I mean, he has had a couple title shots in the past, and they didn't go his way. But I'm just saying, would that be okay to just have him leapfrog to get into a title contender match? I don't know. I mean, I'd be okay with it, but I'm just saying I could hear a lot of feedback coming back from that.
Yeah, I don't think it would happen. I think if Cerrone were to step in and go, yeah, I'll fight him, I don't think it would be for the belt, just because I don't think I can see him. He's got pedigree. He's got a knowing name. The fans know him. But I can't see a lot of fans, like you said, being okay with him jumping that entire division just because he was willing to walk in and save the fight.
Oh, no, I mean, I'm just saying that I appreciate from the standpoint he has that mindset and mentality of like, it doesn't matter anytime, anywhere, any weight, right now. And he's ready to go. Like, give him 20 minutes and he can pack on 15 pounds. Like, he would find a way to do it. Come hell or high water, he would go like, I'm in.
And plus, a side note, they were supposed to fight at one point. So Cerrone is one of these guys. He has no fear of Khabib. He is ready to go after him. And you know what? Khabib is ready to go after him as well, too. I mean, that's just the great thing about when you have fighters that are ready to fight at a drop of a dime. They're ready to go. It's going to be an entertaining fight this weekend no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that now there's a whole different element you got to look at from many sides of the spectrum. Everything is on the line for one fighter to really become a household name. It just depends on how the fight adds up. Let us know what you think. Hashtag ODPH. We want to know what's your thoughts on the new main event for UFC 223. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. We're now on iTunes. That's right. The Ocho Duro Parlay Hour is now on iTunes. So download, rate, and subscribe. Spread the word, and thank you for listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour.
I'm the street light guiding you home. Avoid the wrong step into.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this week's ODPH. And March Madness is now at its final game. The Final Four is now at a Final 2, with Michigan and Villanova being in the title game tonight as we tape. Thoughts from the panel on the past weekend?
Some pretty good games overall, I'd say.
I would agree too, JR.
I can't lie. I was a little disappointed Loyola just couldn't make it 3. I mean, geez, they had him too. I was really pulling for him. I can't lie. Not that my bracket's been busted since, I don't know, week 1 or day 1, but it's I was definitely pulling for the underdog there. When I saw they were ahead in an absolute dogfight against Michigan, I was like, oh, wow, they may actually have a shot to get here to face either Nova or Kansas, and then just couldn't close the deal. So,
no, it was one of the things that they had an impressive Cinderella run. You can't take nothing away from that. Oh. But Michigan was just a better team, and they fought through a atrocious first half, in my opinion.
29-22 at the half.
Whoa.
Ugly.
That was
ugly.
An ugly first half, no matter how you want to spill it. But then Michigan slowly climbed back. They started hitting threes late in the second half. And, I mean, it's just one of those things that it's great to watch the Cinderella team get that far, but it's just how far are they going to go till they finally win it? Unfortunately, time just ran out. And there's nothing to be taken away from Loyola Chicago. Nothing at all. But it's just Michigan was a more athletic team down the stretch. And they played a great second half. First half was awful, as we said. Second half, it was like a night and day difference. So now Michigan has punched their ticket to the final game against the winner of Villanova and Kansas, which went a lot different than I thought it was going to go.
Yeah, final score of 95-79.
The fact that Villanova dropped 95 was, I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought it was going to be a lot closer. I thought like a 74-72 game. But Villanova made a statement with that game.
Well, yeah, when you drop 18 threes in a game.
Yeah, I was going to say, not 1, not 2, 18 threes made in a game.
Yeah, when they caught on fire, they caught on fire. And Jay Wright and his boys are ready to go. I still think that they are going to win this. I do like them over Michigan. I'm not going to say it's going to be by a huge blowout, but I see it being by like about 8 points. because just Villanova is just that solid. And I think that they have been here before in a sense. Not that Michigan hasn't, but it's been a while. But I think if you just put, the eye test, so to speak, of team versus team, Villanova is a lot sharper, and they can definitely put up points in a hurry. Where I think if Michigan struggled against Loyola Chicago, if they get off to that bad start against Villanova, it is going to be a long night.
Well, yeah, because every starter on the Villanova team scored in double figures, and every starter for Villanova made at least 2 3-pointers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and it doesn't help that the Kansas being, what were they again? A 1 seed? Oh, yeah, that's right. The 1 seed going against Villanova had their doors blown off 22-4 to start that game.
Yeah.
So you get off that kind of slow start, you're not coming back.
No. And I sense that's going to happen tonight. Maybe not a 22-4, but I sense Villanova is going to want to get out there and get out there early. And if they do that, Michigan has got a good defense. They're known to block underneath the paint. But I just tell you what, I think if Villanova gets rolling, it's going to be a long night. It just depends on how much Michigan can slow down the tempo. If they can slow it down, they have a shot to win this. But I don't know. I don't see it. I think Villanova is just too stacked. I mean, they have a very solid team that's played a lot of games together. So, that being said, I do like Nova to win this. Pad, what you got?
I'm going with Nova. I mean, if you're shooting 18 3-pointers in a game, you are clearly eating your Wheaties for breakfast in the morning. You are ready to rock and roll.
Absolutely. JR?
Coming from the man who has absolutely no ground to stand on with my bracket, that's been an absolute wonderful centerpiece in my house, keeping me warm at night. I honestly don't even know. I'm taking Michigan just because this whole tournament's been that way. So why not? Michigan it is.
And as the tournament ends today, what is our lasting thought of this year's tournament? Starting with Pat?
Just all the upsets and the unpredictability of it. Like, I get that most years you'll have a few games that it goes away you just didn't see coming. But this, it felt like it was multiplied by 2 or 3.
Jay?
I mean, I think it's honestly one of the best ones I've watched in a while. Where it's that seeing that, I don't want to say equality in a sense, but you finally see that stability, so to speak, in D1 sports where you're getting these mid-major schools that can step up and they can compete with the big boys. They don't get the time. I mean, let's be real. How many games was Loyola Chicago on primetime?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see any?
No.
Because they're not there.
No.
But then they walk into a tournament, they impress, they look good, they dominate, they get all the way to the Final Four. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I'm more than okay with having my bracket be the last one ranked on ESPN, which I'm pretty sure it's close. But that's what I'm honestly taking away is I love seeing that stability now in D1 where you, at any given night, it's, hey, you're gonna win, baby. It's awesome.
Absolutely. I think this is the first time for me that it truly felt like there's parity in Division I college basketball for men's. It just felt like any team had a legit shot.
Especially after you had your first 16 beat a 1.
And that was, I think, the most telling sign. Now, I mean, granted, Virginia lived and died by its defense.
Oh, yeah.
And the minute UMBC figured out how to beat that press, it got very interesting. And as we saw, the biggest upset in college basketball history. That being said, though, every other game really felt like any team had a shot. And you go look at your brackets, and I mean, everybody does it. They go, okay, this is a no-brainer. X, Y, and Z gets to the final games. Not so much this year. And I'd say, I think it's just a reflection of the parity in the league.
You just said it, and I'm actually going to present this question to you because I find it rather interesting. So the 16 seed is the greatest upset in college basketball, obviously in the tournament. Is that one of the greatest upsets ever?
Yes.
Yeah, I have to say yes.
Virginia's the number 1 overall seed for the entire tournament.
Right, because since the tournament's inception, I think the only people who ever took a 16 beating a 1 were the people who didn't know anything about college basketball, were picking based off of mascots, or were just doing a bracket where they had every upset winning.
Yeah.
Like for the folks like the panel here, I don't think any of us have ever had a 16 beating a 1.
No.
Only in a joke bracket I've never submitted anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
In an underground, like, we're just like, hey, here's like 5, let's just make for fun. UMBC wins it all. There you go.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things that this has never happened in the history of men's college basketball. And is when it happens for the first time, it is the biggest upset, I think.
And that's why it wasn't just a 1 seed. It was the 1 seed.
Yeah, it was the one
the
overall.
number 1, yeah. Like people taking this, people were taking Virginia all the way, national title. Thought they're going to roll right through that bracket.
Well, I mean,
that's
it was
huge.
like 60+% of notification I got from ESPN's tournament challenge. It was like 65% or something like that had Virginia going to the Final Four, if not all the way.
Well, that's the thing, because the team was that great. They just weren't that great that night. But like I said, it just shows the parity in the league, because after that game happened, you sensed there was a shift in the thinking of fans throughout the tournament watching the games.
Yeah.
That really every team had a chance, no matter what seed they were. And we saw more upsets go. I mean, take a look at Syracuse. I'll admit, they got a lot farther than I thought they were going to get.
No, they should have gone farther.
We will debate that off air. But the point is, take example of Syracuse and how far they ran. And yeah, they almost beat Duke.
And the conversation, by and large, when Syracuse got announced in the tournament was, how? What?
Yeah, it's a very big question. I mean, I still struggled with it. And I don't take back what I said about it, because I thought Notre Dame should have got in ahead of them. I'll stand by that. But season is over. It doesn't matter.
No, that's what I'm saying. Absolutely. I mean, like you said, when just using Syracuse as the example, when their best win is against UB,
Yeah.
which granted they won their game too as an upset, which not many people had there either. But however, same principle. You look at it and you're like, okay, so you play in the ACC and the only win you have is against the University of Buffalo. No disrespect to the University of Buffalo, but if that's your like standing ground, like that's our quality win. So you lost to Duke twice. You got blown off by Virginia, Carolina, Florida State, Miami. Like, dude,
It's not a good look.
No.
Yeah, like that's not good. They played Binghamton, Cornell. Like, strength of schedule wasn't that great. Your quality wins were terrible. They get in, then look,
But it just
really deep run.
It just goes back to show you that it doesn't matter on what you did. It matters what you do that game. Because if you show up and that other team takes you too lightly, it makes it for a very long night. It makes it for a very interesting dynamic to happen. So what's your thoughts on the tournament as it winds down? Was this one of the best ones ever? I mean, other than your brackets going up? What else stands out about this tournament? We want to know. Hashtag ODPH. We're going to take another quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH, the greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Hot lips touching, cool thighs feeling, shudder running up, her spine spinning, long day to a long night, but I'm not stopping till I get it.
Coming back on this week's ODPH with a little NBA news. Pad, what you got for us?
Yeah, playoff picture's starting to take some shape in the NBA. Of course, the season ends right around the corner, not too far, long from now. In the Eastern Conference, Toronto, Boston, Cleveland, Philadelphia, Indiana, and Washington have all clinched playoff berths, although the seeding is not finalized yet. Out in the Western Conference, Houston has clinched the number 1 overall seed. Golden State is currently in second and has clinched a playoff berth. And also Portland Trailblazers have clinched a playoff berth, which that's your top 3 seeds as it stands. Rest of the seeding yet to be determined.
See, that's kind of interesting to see, because now the question is going to be, do you sit your starters or do you keep playing them? And I would say, in my opinion, you start sitting, especially if you're a team like Houston, because as you look around the league, how many teams are now getting hit with the injury bug?
A lot of them.
Golden State is one jumping at my mind, because you take a look at it, Curry's out again.
You're missing the first round of the playoffs.
Durant's out.
Yeah, and Klay Thompson just came back. I know that.
Yeah. And, I mean, if they start getting hit, especially that team with injuries,
Right.
is going to make for a very short postseason.
And it's not going to, and it's not, they're not, sorry, their road through the playoffs isn't going to be as easy as it was in years past.
No, I don't think so. And I think that's one thing that they've been lucky these past couple of years, that everybody's been healthy
Right.
to make that deep run. And, I mean, you start taking a look at, looking back to the East. I mean, this is when LeBron shuts down a little bit during the mid-season point. And that's why he's always rested going into the playoffs.
Well, LeBron's currently on pace to play every game this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely making a definitive statement right now with how he's running. But, I mean, his conditioning is just unquestionable right now.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing that's just blowing my mind. At his age, for the amount of games he has played at the NBA level, and he's producing at this stage, at this age, is amazing. for me to watch. But the question goes back to, do you start or do you sit? I think you start sitting, because if your seed is locked in, like Houston, and you see what's happening to the other teams around you, why take the chance?
I see that side of the argument, but if I'm a head coach in the NBA, I would keep them playing, but wind back the minutes. Because how often in other sports, particularly the playoffs, I can use baseball as an example, how often in the MLB playoffs do you see, let's just say, the Detroit Tigers win the ALCS in 4 games, while meanwhile, the Colorado Rockies or whoever in the NLCS go 7 games, and so you've got the Detroit Tigers sitting on 9, 10 plus days rest while they're waiting for the NLCS to figure their stuff out. And then you got Detroit coming into the World Series in the first game. They're not so hot. They're not playing so great because they had all that time off.
I mean, it's a valid argument. I mean, that's the catch-22 about it. Do you sit or do you play? Because you always run the risk of somebody getting hurt. I'm just saying, as me looking at the other teams in the league, and granted, I should be worried about my own house before I start looking at my neighbors there.
Right.
But I'm still got to have it in the back of my head that, okay, I'm seeing Golden State get banged up. I'm seeing San Antonio has still had the Kawhi Leonard drama from, he's never really coming back, or whatever the case is going there. I honestly lose track. But if I'm worried, like if I'm the Houston GM, I have to keep that in the back of my head that my team is playing so great. They went on great win streaks. They're playing at such a high level. Maybe cut back the minutes, but I would give them as much rest as I think they need.
I would almost borrow from the Greg Popovich book when it comes to managing players late in the season, because, okay, look at when they had Parker, Ginobili, and Tim Duncan. They, especially when Duncan was getting up there in age, they would wind back the minutes. They wouldn't play as much, but they would always make solid runs in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. They would always look really good in the playoffs, like they could contend with anybody in the playoffs.
It's a very valid point. JR, you have a take on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 110% with Pat here. I mean, I'm thinking it definitely can't just flat out cold turkey stop. That full on rest like that, that's a horrendous idea. If anything, you're going to play a half at most, in my opinion. That's what if I'm a head coach, that way at least you can still get into the flow of a game. You can still get your shots, and you play a solid half, and then you're benched. Regardless, like you said, Houston's the 1 seed. They're not going to lose it. It's locked. You can start your guys, get them a half. Get them a good sweat, get them a good workout, see where they stand, bench players go in.
And you know what? Try and work out some plays that you were drawn up in the season but didn't want to run because you didn't want to blow the lead you were going with or turn the game against you. This could be Houston's opportunity. If they've been working on some plays, they've been drawing up some plays that they could work them. Hey, we got nothing to lose. Let's try it.
But do you want to show that to your teams that you're going to be facing in the playoffs? I mean, it's a question. No, I mean, this is a good question to ask.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's pluses and minuses to both sides of the argument. Because unless you want to tip your hat of what you're thinking for going for plays, going into the playoffs, other teams are going to be watching your moves. Do you want to show your full hand, or you want to kind of keep it coy?
I mean, I know personally, just again, everybody's different, and I understand that, and coaches and players alike. But I know every time we were running down and, playing pickup ball, there was never a time I wanted to take a break. The risk of being injured, sure, but you know what? Even if I had to tone back and only play maybe a game or two of pickup, if I wasn't feeling all that great, at least you still have your rhythm. Because, like you said, if you know how it is. You go to the gym, doesn't matter what it is. Say perfect example. You go to the gym, you crush it 5 days a week, and you do it for 2 months. Then you up and stop because you want to rest, and you get back into it, and you're doggish and you're a little sluggish to get those first couple of games. I mean, the Rockets could truly be facing right now as it stands, it'd be the Pelicans. But otherwise, they're facing the Timberwolves in the first round, and neither one of those games are going to be exactly walk in the park. So you stumble against those guys, you come in looking sluggish, you might get knocked out.
So neither team is going to roll over just because it's the Houston Rockets.
Oh, no, absolutely not. But my point is just to increase the rest, and I'm not saying fully shut down, but I'm just saying you got to definitely get more rest than you normally would. I mean, in some cases, maybe you want to shut down 1 or 2. Maybe.
I could see that.
But that's the point I'm trying to stress. Because if you're seeing the injury bug happen, do you want to go in where something, an injury could happen on a fluke game that means absolutely nothing? It's the argument.
Oh, I don't care. I'm taking the LeBron approach. I'm playing every game. I'm going 110% all the way. That's the way I look at it. Like I said, because like I said, you need to get into those rhythms. You stay in those rhythms, and if you lose them, you get cold at the wrong time, you're gonna get punished.
All right, and let's just throw this argument out there. Let's say hypothetically they start making a deep run, and he starts looking very sluggish going into the later rounds.
Who?
LeBron. Let's just say hypothetically, would they tie it back into that he didn't get his rest like he usually does?
No.
No, I think you just attribute it to tread on the tires.
I mean, maybe. Like I said, he's playing at such a high level at his age and considering when he started in the league.
Right, and you consider, how many consecutive years he went into the playoffs, made deep runs, and then how many of those off seasons that he might normally take for rest, relaxation, what have you, he was outplaying the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more you got to take into. I mean, his case is special.
Right.
That you have to look at.
Right.
But my point, what I'm just trying to say is, if you really start resting, there's pluses and there's minuses. Which one means more to you as a coach? And as a fan, you want to see the star players go when you buy a ticket because you don't want to see the B squad face the B squad. That's just how it is.
What's more important to you? Would you take the rest now? Would you take the rest now or a title? Like if you're resting your guys and you go to a game and you're like, man, I got to see all the bench players. The title. I'm still taking the title.
The title's worth more. Yeah, that's what I say. But that's the thing. But if you're going to it as fans, though, you want to see the star players go.
Yeah.
So like I said, this is a very good argument. We want to know what you think about it. Should you rest or should you go? Hashtag ODPH. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves, you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where
Closing out this week's ODPH with our local minute, and shout out to those Binghamton Bulldogs.
Woo!
We wish them the best of luck. And again, thank you to Binghamton Bulldogs President and CEO Jimmy Evans for calling in to talk to Coach Duffy. We appreciate the interview. We wish you guys the best of luck. Bring home the chip from Austin. More information on binghamtonbulldogs.com, but the team will be playing April 5th in Austin, Texas. We wish them the best of luck. Also happening this week is a little well-known player joining our local AA baseball franchise. Tim Tebow and the Rumble Ponies will be opening this week at Nice Egg Stadium.
Get your tickets now. They're selling fast.
Absolutely. Probably the hottest ticket in town. They're going to be opening Thursday, April 5th against Portland. So for more information on that, bingrp.com for Binghamton Rumble Ponies action. So as we go around to round the bases for this week's episode, Pat, what you got?
A little bit of baseball recap. Of course, season in full swing, full effect. Yankees are 2-2. They split a series in Toronto. New York Mets are 2-1. Of course, we Giancarlo Stanton had that amazing first game, first at bat, home run. Then Judge yesterday threw out Russell Martin at home on a play. I didn't think he had any shot of getting him out at home, but impressive nonetheless. Supposed to have a game today as we record, but unfortunately Mother Nature had other plans, so they'll have their home opener tomorrow.
Should be kind of interesting to see how the Yankees are going to be doing, but like I say, after one game, people were talking World Series. Pump the brakes. I want to see him get there, but I am definitely not crowning any champions in April.
No, I would just say it's a good look. And
It's a very good look.
It's a sign of good things.
It's a very good look. JR, what you got?
I'm super excited this weekend. I know had I not been able to take a little bit more vacation time, I would definitely not move from my recliner. It's Masters time, baby.
Uh-oh.
I am all in. I am not doing
Is it
anything.
that time already? Wow.
It is that time. I'm not doing nothing. It's going to be a jam-packed weekend. I know I've got the Masters all day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't even care who wins. I love watching the Masters. I live vicariously through them because that is on my bucket list. If I could ever find out a way how to play there, it's borderline impossible. So unless you know like Bill Gates or any president who's actually a member, I don't think I'm going to get to play there anytime soon. So I will definitely be watching from the comfort of my recliner. It's going to be super awesome. But Saturday night, I also have something else I'm watching. I think it pertains to what you've got going on here, Ken.
Yeah, to close out the local minute, and I'm opening this up to the panel as well because you know how amped I am when it's any time to talk UFC. UFC 223 live from Brooklyn, New York is going on Saturday night. The card is so stacked. I definitely want to get the panel's opinion on this. And we might have a Common Man blog giving his picks as well. So keep an eye on the blog section of the website as well. But to break it down, the 3 fights I want to talk about, Michael Chiesa versus Anthony Showtime Pettis. I tell you, it's going to be a sleeper on the card if you are a novice fan, but if you're a hardcore fan like myself, this one I circled the minute I saw it. Chiesa is no joke. He is a ground game specialist, and he's going to want to put that rear naked choke on Pettis. But do not doubt Anthony Showtime Pettis no matter what. Former champion. Everybody knows he can strike at any place in the cage. We've all seen the highlight reel kick of Benson Henderson, but do not doubt Pettis' ground game. He can definitely work from his back if need be. I like Pettis in this. I'm just not sure how it's going to happen. Either he's going to knock him out or he's going to win by decision. Pad, what you got on this one?
I'm going with Showtime Pettis as well. I think some added attention on the card, a few more eyes watching the card than you may normally. Going to take advantage of that and really put out a showing.
JR?
Showtime, baby. Enough said.
Absolutely. The co-main event is a rematch for the women's strawweight title. Joanna Jędrzejczyk is fighting champion Rose Namajunas in a rematch of the stunning upset of Rose beating Jędrzejczyk in the first round. Thoughts on this one?
I'm liking Rose in this fight. I think it's going to be her chance to really solidify her title reign, and she'll have a pretty decent run, I'd say.
JR?
Upset or not, the last time Namajunas defends the title in yet another stunning upset.
This one is going to be straight fireworks. I don't think it ends in the first round. I would be very shocked if it did. Either way, man, I want Rose to win. I do. I root for Rose. But you know what? Jędrzejczyk, I think, took Rose too lightly last time. I don't think she's going to do that again. I think this one is going to be a decision, and I could see it going Jędrzejczyk's way. And I kind of want to see that because I want to see a trilogy fight.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, we don't have Canelo Triple G happening anytime soon. I need a good trilogy or sequel fight. This one, for me, would definitely do it. And I tell you what, I like Jędrzejczyk in this one. Not by much, because I think Rose is just as skilled, and I think Rose is going to be is just as hungry as ever to defend her belt as she was to win it. But it's going to be a fun one to watch. But I do think Jędrzejczyk is going to get the decision win. And that is not the only main event on this card. As we've talked about for weeks, the original main event for UFC 223 was supposed to be Ferguson versus Khabib. Unfortunately, the injury bug, or whatever you want to blame it on, has caused a shift in the main event. It is now featherweight champion Max Holloway stepping up on 6 days' notice to fight Khabib. Khabib has been on a tear ever since he's been in the UFC. Now, granted, he's had the injury bug hit him, but he has beat almost like a who's who of the 155 division. Most recently, Michael Johnson and Edwin Barbosa, which was a performance of the night. Not to take anything away from Max Holloway, who was the man, the myth, the legend that beat Jose Aldo twice for the featherweight title. I mean, he beat him to win the belt, and he beat him for defending the belt. He's gone through the 145 division, defeating Anthony Pettis, Ricardo Lamas, Jeremy Stevens. He has been on an impressive win streak in his own right. So going into the main event, this is one that is going to be a truly fun one to watch. Because you have Max, who has been impressive, but he is going in a little banged up because if he had to cancel his last fight against Frankie Edgar, he is now going in 6 days without a camp to fight Khabib 25-0 at the 155 division. So I'm going to pose it to the panel. Who do you got and why?
I believe it still says 0 in the loss column for Khabib. Going with Khabib via knockout for a real coming out party.
JR?
Yeah, I'm thinking Khabib pretty ugly. It's not, like Pat said, what does that loss column say?
0.
Right, yep. We'll just continue right on this impressive train, if you ask me.
You can't take anything away from that. Khabib has been on an impressive fight win streak. So has Holloway. Holloway has been on a tear at 145. But like I said, stepping in on short notice with an injury that puts you out from your last fight, it does make a lot of questions. Is Holloway going to be healthy enough to jump in? Now, I do have to applaud him for stepping in and taking the fight on short notice. I do. Few fighters do this. Donald Cerrone is one that jumps as a guy that steps in anytime, any place, anywhere. Holloway is doing this for a legacy fight. Now, Holloway had another opponent scheduled down the road, and you know Brian Ortega is waiting in the wings. JR, I think you have a little more information on that?
Yeah, actually, oddly enough, as we were recording here, I happened to stumble across quite the interesting article I'm going to present to you guys. Speaking of the one Brian Ortega, he has a record which is mighty impressive of his own. It is 14 and what?
0.
And I guess Dana White was blowing up his phone too, because he responded via Twitter earlier today. Quote, for the record, Dana called me yesterday to see if I would step in against Khabib since Max hadn't responded yet. I said yes. Eventually, Max replied and Dana gave him the fight. If all goes according to plan, I'll get my turn at both of them, close quote.
And what site is this from?
This is from MMAfighting.com. This broke as of just a couple hours ago, pre-recording.
A few ways to take this. The 155 division is the deepest in all of the UFC, without question. And especially when you have fighters that hover around the 145 weight class and even 170 to a lesser degree. Everybody is eyeing this belt. Is it the one that stands out most of all from all the UFC fighters? It's debatable. But in my opinion, this is the deepest weight class for a reason. To be the champion at this class, you have to be elite. There is no room for error, and you have to keep performing at a high level to maintain your status. That being said, looking at this, Max Holloway is going to come in a little banged up, but he's definitely a gamer for the fight. I just think Khabib is on a whole different level. Is he going to take him out in the first round? Absolutely not. But I do think Khabib wins this by decision, and I think it's going to be a very close fight.
So because I'm curious, and the article I just broke about Brian Ortega, would you rather see a healthy Khabib Ortega or a possibly semi-wounded Holloway Khabib fight?
See, here's the question I have in
then
regards to it.
And then also thinking that, too, does Ortega surrender the 145? He doesn't have the belt, but does he give up the chance to go get the belt at 155 and then stay there and defend it instead of having to fight Holloway for the belt?
A few points with that. So if I get confusing, just please bear with me. I would rather see Holloway fight Khabib. And Holloway is the champion at 145. Is nothing against Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega is an impressive star on the rise. From a business standpoint, I understand why Dana gave the fight to Holloway, because you're talking champion versus arguably champion, I guess, because if he's due for a title shot, I mean, it just depends on how you want to go. But if you've been 25-0 in the deepest weight class, you're kind of an uncrowned champion. So that being said, this fight does more for me than it would seeing a healthy Ortega versus Khabib. Notwithstanding, though, I think Ortega is worthy of the title shot. So if he was given it, I'd be just as ecstatic. But for me and my pay-per-view money, I want to see Holloway fight Khabib. As long as the injury doesn't happen and like he re-injures himself in like the first round, because I believe it was his ankle that was hurt. If he's hobbling around in the first round, I don't want to see that. If he's healthy enough to go, he's going to definitely give Khabib more of a trouble than I think people are thinking. Because when obviously we see how dominant Khabib is in a fight, you think there's no chance anybody has against him. I think Holloway does have a legit shot, but I just think it's going to go to decision.
Plus, I mean, I know we've harped on it before about Conor McGregor, and I mean, we're all let's be honest. Everybody in the MMA world is proactively thinking the 155 fight versus Conor. So think about it. I mean, if you had Ortega and he steps up and they give him this fight and he fights Khabib, is it really going to turn a lot of heads and start building? I mean, if anything else, we all know Conor McGregor will sell anything. Mm-hmm. No matter who he's fighting, he's going to sell.
Yeah, absolutely.
But which are you going to get a better pull for? If whoever is assuming Khabib loses to either one of these two, Holloway or Ortega. So if Ortega goes in there and thumps Khabib or whatever, and then he calls out, he's like, I want McGregor. Or if Holloway does the same thing, it's like, as far as the MMA world's concerned, which one's probably going to get a little bit more pull? Probably Holloway, your champion, going for
it would be
defending
Holloway.
Both, especially because they would be, think about it, two guys who are now the only two to ever hold two belts at the same time, and now they're going to fight each other. That would be quite the headline.
It books itself.
Yeah, no, it definitely books itself. There's more story to it that would gain more mainstream media notoriety, and you get more mainstream fans involved. I mean, Ortega is a great story. Don't get it wrong what we're saying here. Ortega is due for a title shot at either 145 or if he gets lucky and gets a 155er, absolutely. His star is on the rise. But if you're asking right now who is the more money fight, I guess, it would be Holloway versus Conor if it's not Khabib versus Conor. Ortega is in the discussion without question. It's just a matter of who. But I also want to see him win a belt first before you put him in the discussion, because you're talking champion. The only difference you have between Ortega, who is, I believe, 14-0?
14-0.
Against Khabib, who's 25-0, is Khabib has a little bit of a deeper pedigree of names he has defeated. Not to say Ortega is not on the rise, because he is. But I want to see what he does in a title fight first. And for me, I want to see him fight Max Holloway. For me, as an MMA fan, this guy has been running through the featherweight division, and that knockout of Frankie Edgar sent shockwaves and definitely turned some heads in that division. So for me, I want to see Ortega fight the 145 champion.
I'm not gonna lie, man. With all the talent that's in 145 and 155, I almost wish there was just a 150 class. Put them all in one huge group. I mean, like you said, you couldn't, because
no, you'd log jam title fights.
You'd have 8 guys that are all worthy of being champions in the combined two, which would be insane.
Yeah,
but you would have fight after fight after fight that are just unbelievably good. I know you can't; it's not practical. I understand that 100%. But just the talent in those 2 weight classes alone, I think far and surpass the entire rest of the UFC. Really.
Yeah, because you have such an elite level down there at the lower weight class. Because a lot of times people just, more mainstream fans think heavyweight is like the best one ever. And Stipe Miocic has been doing great things. Don't get it wrong about this. But to really watch the talent level at the lighter weight classes has truly been something. And especially at 155, because that has been such a deep division for years. So to say that you are the champion at that level, that's truly saying something. Featherweight has just started coming around because Jose Aldo was running that division for years until Max came in there and took him out. And he did it again. He defended his belt. So now it's like Max has a whole window open to him of what he wants to do.
I mean, like you said, as far as being deep, I mean, obviously we're pretty good. You guys are definitely the 2 MMA junkies, so to speak.
Oh yeah,
definitely big time. But you think about it, like you said, I mean, the talent pool that's in 155 versus look at any other division. Look at Mighty Mouse. Mm-hmm. Look at the competition that's there. How many times has he successfully defended this belt now?
Oh yeah, he's
it's got to be at 100 now, right?
He's literally ran through
not 6, not
right.
7.
But that's what I'm saying. Like you said, I mean, you watch that division, you're almost I don't want to say it's boring, but at some point you kind of like, man, 120. It's like, okay, yeah, he's Mighty Mouse, yeah, he won again, and it's like there's no like I guess it's just a little bit different with 155. You're like, man, that is like there's elite talent there that's constantly flip flopping and they're pushing themselves so hard, and then you look at a division save like that one with Mighty Mouse, and it's like. No, not to slender the guys in that weight class, but no one's overtaking him.
It's just tough because Mighty Mouse is at such an elite level at that weight class, and he's beaten everybody that's been there.
Twice.
I mean, yeah. So now it's like you have to start making super fights for him at that weight class because eventually somebody's going to come along and beat him. And it happens to everybody. Happened to Anderson Silva when he went on his tear. Happened to Jose Aldo when he went on his tear. It's going to happen at some point. I mean, obviously, as a fan, I want to see Garbrandt go down there, or I want to see Dillashaw go down to 125 just for a super fight. Is it going to happen? I don't know. But as far as we go, but you're exactly right. 155 is just so stacked, and there's so much mobility. I mean, you look at who's now going to be fighting for, I think, the interim title at 170 is Rafael Dos Anjos, who was a 155 champion, who went up a weight class. I mean, that just shows you the level that's down there at 155. And there's so many great fights to be had that you're almost like picking and choosing your poison, so to speak. I mean, the fight I would want to see if the winner of this one fights Conor McGregor makes more sense because Conor never lost his belt. Conor should fight the 155 champion. I think him going back to 145 doesn't make a lot of sense at this point.
No.
Even though I would have no issue if he did and he wanted to fight Holloway, but I just don't think he wants to do the weight cut.
So getting back to 233, if Khabib gets the title, are they going to promo this with Conor with the belt and Khabib with the belt? Because, like you said, technically Conor never lost. So is he going to have a belt over his shoulder and go, hey, he will. He'll find one and just say, look, I never lost it anyway, so you damn well better know it's going to be on my shoulder.
I think. And
say, like, you're not the true champion because I never lost it. And you know there's going to be some awesome just headbang between the two of them. You know Conor's going to do that.
Conor will absolutely do that.
Or he'll have both.
Conor will show up. Here's what the thing. They'll make an ad or something promoting the fight, and it'll just be like trash talk from whatever fight they've had, right. Diaz or whatever. And then when they actually come to a press conference, you know as well as I do that Conor will absolutely walk in there with the belt he won for that division, and he'll hold it up. They'll use that footage for a promo because they'd be stupid not to.
I think win, lose, or draw, whoever wins this calls him out. Because fighters are not dumb. Fighters are smart enough to know that if you call out the biggest name in the sport, it's going to generate some headlines. And if you want people showing you attention, that's what you do. Skill level will get you in the door, but it's how you market yourself too is another factor that a lot more people are catching on to.
Win, lose, or draw, we all win.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. As long as Max doesn't get hurt between now and the fight, which I hope not. Yeah, because I want to see these super fights. I get excited about this. Trust me, Saturday night I'm going to be glued in front of my TV, and there's so much going on this weekend, whether it be the Masters, whether it be if you're into WrestleMania. There is just so much going on. I mean, depending on what you're into for the weekend. But for me, this is the card. You have two title defenses, which are not going to be boring fights no matter how you cut it. Namajunas versus Jurjek is going to be straight fire, and they're going to be definitely setting the standard. And then you have Khabib versus Holloway, which is a super fight waiting to happen. I didn't even think this was possible, to be honest with you. I know Max has fought at 155 before, but he's been such a monster down at 145 that to see him go up, I'm just hoping that win, lose, or draw, he doesn't have any long-term damage because I want to see him fight Ortega this summer at some point. And depending on what happens, if he beats Khabib, he stops the undefeated streak. So you know that he's going to immediately call out Conor for that belt. And, if Ortega, I mean, he's even in a win-win situation too because, you know what, I could see him fighting the loser of this fight really quickly.
Absolutely.
And that's a fun one to watch, and especially for him to showcase his talents. We all win on this one, folks. There's no other way to cut it, but we want to know your predictions. I know this was a little longer around the bases than we expected, but we had to check some things on instant replay, so to speak, because this fight means so much, and this card means so much to us as fans that we just hope you guys buy into it as well. Hashtag it ODPH. We want to know what you think of this card. So, for Padawan J, the Sound Guy Galore, JR, I am your host, Ken M. Thank you for listening to another edition of the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. We'll see you next time.